I want to tell you a story about a workplace dispute that started with an absolutely record-breaking win for an employee and then ended in a crushing multi-million-dollar defeat. It's a wild, cautionary tale about fighting for your rights and the incredible, almost unbelievable risks that can come with it.
So, let's start with this number. Over $5.2 million. That is the jaw-dropping amount of money that a tech executive named Behnam Ruhizadagan was awarded. Now, at the time, this was a record payout for this kind of workplace claim in Australia. For him, that must have felt like complete and total vindication, right?
But that is not where this story ends, not even close. In a truly stunning reversal of fortune, that record win was completely wiped out. And the man who was supposed to get over $5 million, well, he ended up on the hook for his former company's legal bills, which also ran into the millions.
So the big question is, how on earth does a record-setting, multi-million-dollar win turn into such a catastrophic loss? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now.
This whole case, Ruhizadagan versus the company Technology One, it's really a powerful, almost scary, cautionary tale about the unpredictable, high-stakes world of fighting it out in court.
And you have to understand, this wasn't some quick fight. Just look at this timeline. It's staggering. He was fired back in 2016. The final ruling isn't even expected until late 2025. That's nearly a decade of his life spent in this legal battle. 10 years of litigation, appeals, and just total uncertainty.
So to really get how it all fell apart, we've got to go back to the beginning. How did he win so big in the first place? What was this case actually about?
The whole conflict really boils down to two completely different stories. On one side, you have Mr. Ruhizadagan. He says he was fired illegally as punishment for making bullying complaints and also because he was discriminated against for his mental health. But on the other side, Technology One said, nope, the reason was simple: poor performance. They pointed to 3 straight years of zero growth in the region he managed.
Now, the heart of his claim rested on this really important legal concept called adverse action. And in simple terms, all it means is that it's illegal for your boss to punish you, say by firing you, just because you used one of your workplace rights like making a formal complaint.
And here is the legal twist that won him the case the first time around. In these types of cases, the burden of proof is flipped. It's called a reverse onus of proof. This means the company had to prove that his complaints were not a major reason for firing him. And in that first trial, the court basically said, you failed, you didn't prove it. And boom, that's what led to that massive $5.2 million payout.
But of course, the company wasn't just going to take that lying down. They appealed. And this right here is where the tide turned dramatically. The case went to a retrial, and it led to a completely different outcome.
Wow. I mean, just listen to this absolutely brutal assessment from the judge in the retrial. His personal credibility was just completely destroyed. The court found that he was not a reliable witness at all, and that his testimony was filled with what they called transparent lies. This was, without a doubt, a devastating blow to his entire case.
So you might be wondering, okay, what exactly went wrong? Well, the appeals court found that the first judge actually made some legal errors and never really explained how the complaints led to the firing. The retrial then focused on the real reason for termination, and this time the company successfully argued it was all about performance. The court also made a point to mention Mr. Ruhizadagan's own persistent inability to accept decisions from his bosses.
But believe it or not, the story has another critical turning point. A single moment where it all could have ended very, very differently, with millions of dollars still in his pocket.
So get this. During the retrial, his team went in and demanded a settlement of $30 million. Yeah, $30 million. The company's lawyer literally called this demand embarrassing and said it was completely disconnected from reality and the evidence. That just shows you how far apart the two sides were.
So in response, the company made a counteroffer. Not $30 million, but a very, very substantial $2.2 million. That was a serious offer to just make it all go away and for everyone to walk away.
He rejected it.
And that decision, well, that was the final nail in the coffin. The court later looked at that $2.2 million offer and called it genuine. The judge said that by rejecting it, he failed to seriously consider the inherent weakness of his own case. And that single decision is what ultimately led to the court ordering him to pay the company's massive legal costs.
And, you might think this is some crazy, isolated incident, but this kind of dramatic backfire, it's really not a one-off. There are other cases out there where employees who sue their former bosses end up owing them money instead.
Let's just quickly look at the Bucket case. So an employee accepts a $30,000 settlement for sexual harassment. Part of that deal was an agreement not to sue again. But 4 years later, she did. She sued the firm again over the exact same thing. Well, the court found she broke the agreement, and she was ordered to pay the law firm's legal costs, which almost certainly wiped out her original settlement and then some.
Okay, so after going through these two really intense legal dramas, what are the practical lessons here? I mean, what should you actually take away from all this? All right, the takeaways here are super important. First, a big win at the start doesn't mean it's over. It can absolutely be overturned. Second, your personal credibility is everything. It will be put under a microscope. Third, and this is a huge one, rejecting a reasonable settlement offer is a massive financial gamble. You have to remember, these things can drag on for years and cost a fortune. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, you have to listen to objective legal advice. A legal fight isn't just about who's right, it's about strategy.
And that just leaves us with this massive, difficult question. When you truly believe you've been wronged at work, the stakes, both financial and emotional, are incredibly high. So how do you know? How do you know when to fight for justice and when the risk of total financial ruin is just too high and it's time to walk away? There's really no easy answer.